Recording live from Glory Hole Studios in Chicago and beyond. This is Cognitive Dissonance. Every episode we blast anyone who gets in our way. We bring critical thinking, skepticism, and irreverence to any topic that makes the news, makes it big, or makes us mad. It's skeptical, it's political, and there is no welcome mat. Today is Wednesday, June the 5th. Yes, you heard that right. We are recording one day earlier.
Wow.
So if anything happens in the world, you've got one extra day. Well, we didn't cover it.
I know.
So
Hopefully the show comes out for patrons a little early too, but we'll see.
Yeah.
Sometimes it's hard to wrangle Ian to do that. But
well, Ian only does charge us for all of his time and energy and effort. So I don't see why we would expect him to do things on time.
You're right. Why would we bother him?
No. Look, I'm just saying, fuck Ian. He won't hear me say that.
No,
it's fine.
he's never going to listen
not
to
a
the
listener
show.
to the
Doesn't
show.
matter.
How did we even get him?
I don't know.
He clearly, we put a call out many years ago. We put a call out asking for resumes from our listeners who wanted to hire somebody who's familiar with the show, who enjoyed the property. Somehow we got Ian's resume. I don't know who gave it to him. All right. So speaking of things that aren't going to happen, Ian's not going to listen to this, and the Georgia case is not going to come to fruition in 2024 for fucking sure. Put on an indefinite hold by the appeals court, who is going to very slowly consider whether or not Fani Willis can continue to act as the district attorney. Seems like a decision they could actually make much, much quicker than that.
What do you think?
I just think.
What do they have to do?
Couldn't you bang this out over drinks?
What does it have? Okay, so it's June, beginning of June.
Right.
They're not even going to get to this until March of next year.
That makes sense. You need 9 months to consider a single question. This is just obviously the appeals court in Georgia kicking the can down the road because nobody wants to take responsibility for bringing this case. They don't want to allow this to happen. I think the hope, and I kind of get it politically, and everybody's political, even these judges who say they're not. Politically, if you're a craven piece of shit, you win the most, even if you don't care what the outcome is. You win the most if you don't let this case go forward. Because if you allow it to go forward and Trump is convicted and then he is elected, well, your ass is toast. Right? Like you just signed your own fucking career death warrant. And then maybe your own actual death warrant, right? Because
it's violent base.
His followers are a bunch of rabid lunatic nut jobs. Yeah.
We'll get into that.
Yeah. So that's scary, right? So I get that. If you allow it to go forward and then he's not convicted, you're still going to receive the same amount of shit, right? It's from his base, from him, the disloyalty, it's no different. So the only safe thing for you to do politically, if you have power in one of these situations, is to hit the brakes, pump the brakes, be like, okay, I'm just going to wait out November, see how that plays out, and we'll let it go through. That's it.
Yeah.
I mean, like I said, it's craven. It's fucking cowardly as fuck. But I think that these guys are really just saying like, hey, I don't want to be responsible for it. I'm not ruining my career over this.
They're counting down the clock, I think, Tom, until he's irrelevant, hopefully, right?
Yeah.
He's either irrelevant or he's in power. If he's irrelevant, doesn't matter if the case goes through. If he's in power, the case can't go through.
Right.
So either way, they're going to win. And like you say, it's a cowardly act. It's a way in which for them to kick this down the road and not have to deal with it. When they came down with the verdict of guilty 34 times, he said it was rigged. You know he's not going to say that about this, right?
Yeah.
Whenever anything is in his favor, it's not rigged.
Yeah.
But whenever anything isn't in his favor, it's rigged. And there's no consistency to it. He's going to say they're weaponizing the DOJ and they're weaponizing the justice system when he's the one who's getting it. But ask him about Hunter Biden. See what he says about Hunter Biden. Is he going to say the same thing about the Hunter Biden trial? No, of course not.
No, absolutely not. And let's talk about the Hunter Biden thing, because the Hunter Biden thing, I think the first day of trial was today, or maybe it's tomorrow.
Yeah, I saw somebody walking into somewhere on TV. I wasn't paying a lot of attention to it because I don't care.
It's not a case I care about.
Because he's literally not anybody I ever cared about.
Look, same thing, right? He's not a politician. He doesn't have any power. I don't care what the result of this is, right? It literally is not meaningful.
Yeah.
But what is interesting is that the right is absolutely salivating over this, right? They think there's something here. Of course, they've not proven anything. Oh, we got his laptop. We got his laptop. What'd you do with it? Fucking nothing. Okay. How long have you had it? Couple of years. Fucking nothing. Any committees about it? Lots of committees. Fucking nothing. Look, he was boning somebody. Yeah. You see him fucking somebody?
Margie Taylor Greene, can you blow up a picture of him with his fucking hog out for us, please?
There's nothing there. Yeah. But more important than that is the Democrats are not putting on this public show where they are trying to subvert the entire justice system in order to protect somebody. That is the difference here that's so worth noting.
And if he's guilty of something, he's guilty of like not filling out a fucking gun form in like correctly.
Yeah, he lied on his gun form about his drug use.
Fucking go to fucking jail. I don't care, man. This has nothing to do with anybody but you.
Yeah,
right?
This is nothing.
You're the only person who this has to do with. So if you go to jail or you have to pay a big fine or you have to wear a fucking ankle bracelet everywhere you go or they put you fucking up in your house and you can't even look out the window. I don't fucking care, man.
I know, man.
I literally don't care. And the thing is, the other thing you don't see, Tom, is you don't see a podium out there with several Congress people standing up outside of his fucking trial, talking about how they're there to support Hunter Biden. Nobody's doing it because nobody cares, man. You're the only people who care about this.
And I'll tell you what, if Biden were actually running interference through the Department of Justice, because that's the claim, right, for Trump stuff, is that, this is actually all being orchestrated by Biden, even though it's like local prosecution in Manhattan or a local prosecution in Georgia. Oh, it's all being orchestrated. Well, he's not doing fuck all to protect his kid.
I know.
He's not done fuck all. He actually is barely even acknowledging it publicly.
Yeah.
And I think very intentionally. He's been like, special prosecutors. I'm not a part of this. My name's Paul. That's between y'all. And that's the right way to deal with it because the Department of Justice is supposed to be an independent fucking body from the actual executive branch. They're supposed to run independently from one another. And I think in the case of Hunter Biden, he's saying like, look, I'm not interfering. Hunter, you're in trouble. You're in trouble. That's how shit works.
Guess you're going to have to fucking dig your own fucking hole, climb the fuck out of it.
Yeah.
Yeah.
But he's not standing up, like you said. He doesn't have like crowds of people standing behind him and this is a persecution of the president's family and blah, 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 blah. None of that's happening. Yeah. Literally none of it. And for a reason. So.
Well,
what?
That was never 5 minutes just now.
I told you I'm not allowed to argue. I guess you paid.
I just paid.
No, you didn't.
I did.
So, Tom, there was a interview this week with Fox and Friends.
Interview.
They were sitting across from him. If you get a chance to watch the whole interview, I would suggest it because it's worth watching. There's a really interesting part where he talks about how he wants to defund literally the entire Department of Education and EPA. He just says sweeping cuts to both of them. And we're actually going to talk about that for this Thursday's show when we talk about Project 2025. But in this interview, they're not mic'd either very well. Like the people who are asking the questions aren't even mic'd. I think they're mic'd through his mic. It sounds terrible.
That's okay because they didn't fucking have anything to say. They could have been blow up dolls, man.
Little puppets that are just moving around. But here's a question. One of the guys says to him, "You famously said lock her up," and his response is when Trump's response to this interviewer is, "I never said lock her up." And then somebody went out of their way to collect a bunch of fucking instances of him saying it and him agreeing with the crowd. So I'm just going to let it play out and then we'll talk about it. It's only a minute long.
They all said lock her up, and I felt, and I could have done it, but I felt it would have been a terrible thing. And then this happened to me. And so I may feel differently about it. I can't tell you, I'm not sure I can answer the question. Hillary Clinton, I didn't say lock her up.
Lock her up is right.
I didn't say lock her up.
For what she's done, they should lock her up.
I didn't say lock her up.
Crooked, you should lock her up.
I didn't say lock her up.
Lock up Hillary. If she were to win this election, it would create an unprecedented constitutional crisis. In that situation, we could very well have a sitting president under felony indictment and ultimately a criminal trial.
Guilty. That is Donald J. Trump, defendant in New York versus Donald Trump, found guilty on all 34 felony counts. That is the verdict here in this case.
I like how it ends.
I do too.
I gotta say, I like
so
how
good.
it ends.
Yeah, well, it seems like he said lock her up, Cecil. That's what I don't know. I heard it a whole bunch of actual times.
What I love about Trump is his ability to be so self-unaware about this whole thing. I mean, and also, doesn't it feel cowardly to not admit that you said it? Doesn't it feel weirdly cowardly that you can stand on a stage in front of all your supporters and but when finally something bad happens to you that happens to be with the justice system, the whole time you're talking about weaponizing the justice system, right? He's literally spending much of his time in front of all these people at his rallies talking about how he wants to weaponize the justice system. Then he has to deal with the justice system in some way. And suddenly he doesn't have remorse, but he certainly does have, he has a hesitancy to talk about this the same way.
Well, yeah, because like he's a fucking hypocrite, And the thing is that hypocrisy has never bothered the right. Look at the way they treated the appointment of Merrick Garland. And they absolutely blocked the appointment of Merrick Garland. Right. And then, all of a sudden, when literally the exact same thing happened on an even shorter time frame, the Senate was like, we never were telling you the truth. We're fucking with you the whole time. They're liars. They're hypocrites and they're liars and they don't believe in anything and they don't stand for anything. All they believe in and all they stand for is get rich or get out of the way. That's it. All they want is how can I make the billionaire class more billionaire-y?
Yeah, man.
That's it. How can I turn millionaires to billionaires? How can I turn billionaires into 10 billionaires? How can I turn 10 billionaires into 100 billionaires? That's all they care about. And no matter whose back they have to fucking step on and break and whose blood needs to fucking squish out beneath their heel in order to do it, as long as it's brown blood, they don't fucking care. Or it could be poor white.
I guess it's
right. It could be as long as it's poor or brown, they don't care at all.
What do you think about his base if they hear that clip, right? Because there is something about Trump, the guy who's sort of the schoolyard bully, and that appeals to a ton of people, right?
Yeah.
When we saw him come on the scene, he turned the very first Republican debate in 2015 or 26, maybe 2015 it could have been, into an absolute bloodbath. He's talking about Ted Cruz's wife.
Oh my God,
He's talking about Marco Rubio. He's making fun of all these people. He's talking about how terrible they are and how stupid they are. He turned it into, a bully session. He was like a schoolyard bully. And I think he captured a lot of people with that. And then also when he debated Hillary, he made fun of her. He talked about her. He was shitty to her. And then he was shitty to her when he was away from her too, because there's all these places where he's giving these large speeches and he's shitty and he's awful and he's talking about a disabled person and he's making fun of him. And, it felt like he could not sink any deeper. Do you think his base sees this clip and changes their mind about, does this soften their idea of what he is?
I don't think it changes anything. And here's why. Trump plays both sides of the same coin.
Yeah.
He plays bully and victim. It's like, I actually wrote down on my notes, like bully, victim, Madonna, whore, right? Like there's that like Madonna whore thing with like people want like, the Madonna in their house and the whore in their bed type of thing. That's like, and there's a conflict there in terms of like how they treat women and like the impossible place women are put in. But I also think like to a large degree, that same concept of holding these sort of two idealized versions of Trump in their head at the same time that are mutually exclusive from one another, and yet that is projected onto him that he doesn't contain. And that is the bully and the victim. They want him to be a victim because they feel like they too are victims. And if he's a victim, then, it can be the sort of bad news bears, underdog, outsider story. That story only works if he's a victim.
Sure.
But they also are these like misogynist fucking shitheads who need to have their sort of sense of power validated by the power of other people. And Trump embodies that as well. And those are things that should be in conflict, right? Yeah. You can't be a bully and a victim at the same time. But he does a pretty good job of, like a lot of things, saying nothing and saying both things at the same time.
Yeah.
And so I think he's able to hold both spaces. So I think there'll be a lot of people, Cecil, who will see this, it's obviously hypocritical. You cannot hold, I didn't say this. Here's 4 instances of you saying it. Here's you saying it would be a constitutional crisis if it was someone else. Wouldn't it be a you can't. And I think there's a ton of people who would see this and be like, yeah, but.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, but
and then they would just spin their backflips until they made it different somehow.
Sure. You know what I was thinking about this week about the Trump thing? It's what's surprising to me, and I mentioned this on the other show I do, the Lawful Assembly podcast, and it's funny because people seem to not know that this podcast is happening because I'm getting comments from people saying, what law podcast? I do a podcast with a lawyer. It comes out every Friday. It's called Lawful Assembly at lawfulpod.com. I just want to say that so people don't, because they're like, what are you talking about? I mentioned it multiple times.
It's very, very good, guys. You should listen to it. It's
I mentioned it multiple times, but I want to mention it again. Lawfulpod.com. I talked to a lawyer friend of mine, Craig, about the Trump case. And one of the things I said to him, and one of the things that's been sort of bouncing around in my head this week is there's a ton of people right now that are really defending him, that are coming out and saying this trial was rigged, that, this DA was, had it in for him, and this is an obscure law, and this law, it's not obscure law, but that's what they say. And then they're complaining that the judge didn't give the jury they confused the jury. That's not true. And then they're also claiming that they didn't have to have a unanimous verdict. That's also not true. So there's all this stuff that's sort of flying around in the internet right now. And, in the places where I see it, where people are trying to defend Trump and they're making it seem like this is a nothing, right? Mm-hmm. In 2015, there was no danger I was going to vote for Trump. I was never going to vote for Trump, right? So while the American electorate is a victim of Trump's crime, I'm not really a victim of Trump's crime, right? Trump didn't wrong me, right? Like, he slept with a porn star and lied to America and colluded with other people to hide that from America and the American electorate. But whether that came out before he got in the office or not, I was never going to vote for him.
Right.
The people that are vociferously defending him, he lied to you.
Right.
He didn't lie to me. He lied to you. He thought you were the rube. He thought he could pull one over on you. Why aren't you mad about this? He didn't fucking try to lie to me. I was never going to vote for that man.
And again, I think, Cecil, the problem is, and I mean this with genuine love and respect and sincerity to you, but you, as a man of real integrity, you can't understand people who have none. I think it's impossible sometimes for you to square the circle of the depraved. So I'll help you do it because I'm a piece of shit.
Because you're a bad person.
I'm a piece of shit. So yeah, I recognize that. Between the two of us,
sure,
giant piece of shit, genuinely good man. So here's how this works. Because I was thinking, I'm laughing, but I'm thinking of all the evangelicals who continue now to support Trump.
Sure, yeah.
This is a guy who they knew going in was a guy who was thrice married, who has how many kids with how many, partners, who has credible allegations of sexual assault, who has credible allegations of all kinds of immoral misdoings, right? And really no history of any kind of religiosity at all. They never cared. These are people who, even if this story had come out, they all would have gone to the voting booth and they would have voted for him anyway. And they would have done it because they felt like their special interest, whatever it was going to be furthered by their puppet. And honestly, as a president, Trump acted mostly as somebody's puppet in all of his decisions, right?
Sure. Yeah.
He was never a man of morals, and he was never a man of principles. He never behaved in any of those ways. The things that he accomplished because he got something from it, or he was able to give something to somebody powerful in exchange for their sycophancy. And I think the same is true of his electorate. The evangelicals knew, he's a giant piece of shit. We're even going to spin this whole tale of he's like fucking King Harold or whatever the fucking...
Herod.
Thank you. I would say Harold. Look,
good old King Harry. How you doing, bro?
None of these are people that ever existed.
They didn't even
It doesn't matter.
They're just fucking some random
This
name
is
in a
made
Bible.
up fucking children's stories. All right, so King fucking Heron or whatever, like the Bird King or something. Like, but they had to make up like, this giant Bill. Like, he was a piece of shit and he was a tool of God. So like we can elect a piece of shit and he'll be our tool.
Yeah.
They really straight-facedly put that
It was
forward.
Cyrus.
That's what it is.
Somebody's going to send it in if we didn't say it.
Yeah, I know,
So,
man.
yeah,
There's all these like biblically literate people that like grew up in this trauma
In
culture.
this trauma culture,
that are just
yeah.
like, why don't you know everything I know? I was forced to know it. I don't know it.
The only reason I remember that is because I was thinking about the coin.
Yes.
There was a
Dude,
Trump
I had
Cyrus
the coin in my head too. Yeah.
It's a Trump Cyrus coin that
That's
Lance
right.
Wallanu was offering.
Jesus.
Yeah.
Right.
Yeah.
But these guys, they knew all this shit already. Do you know what I mean?
Yeah.
One more, there's no nails you can put in that coffin.
I feel like there's a difference though. In some ways, you can look past all that stuff because he's doing all that for you. But you guys are both winking and nudging at each other, right?
Yeah.
But the moment he lies to you, to me, it feels like there should be some bond broken there.
Yeah.
There's something, he didn't, even though you were willing to put him on a platter and it didn't matter about this stuff at all, he still lied to you.
Yeah. Right.
And that's, and that should be something that should wake you up. And even if you are a piece of shit,
yeah,
you still don't like to be lied to, right? I mean, there's something there.
There's something there. But like, I still feel so much like you're like, but you should like, you're like, it would, I don't want to be lied to.
You're saying ends justify the means with these people.
For all of them.
It's all, that's
they
all
never
it is.
cared. Like, so, it's like I'll give you like a domestic example. It's like if you don't love your wife at all and she cheats on you, you're not really hurt, right? Maybe you're angry, but you're not hurt because they're like, yeah, I didn't really care about that person. So it's kind of the same thing, right? Like, yeah, he lied to me, broke faith with me. Like he convinced me to be on his side. I would feel enraged by that, because I actually expect something from other people. And in return, I will give something to them in the reciprocity. Yeah. I think they're just like, well, what do I get?
Or they're okay. Or they're okay with what they got. Or they're okay with what they got. They think, well, we got 3 people on the Supreme Court. I don't care anymore.
That's what I mean. Yeah. If it was always transactional, it's like, yeah, I don't give a shit who you're fucking.
Yeah. So if there is somebody who listens to Fox News, I'm just telling you should be angry.
You should.
Because that's because any normal person would be angry right now.
Dude, 100%. Yeah. Like the thing is, Cecil, you're right. You're just 100% right. I just think so many of these people, I think 74 million people, what I've discovered is there's 74 million genuinely bad people.
I think that there's a lot of transactional people out there that might not care.
Yeah.
But I also see people walking away from him because they see or hear about these things that maybe they didn't believe before. And they might have heard the grab him by the pussy stuff and thought, oh, they were convinced about the locker room talk from Melania. But they are starting to pull back from him the more they hear about it and the more that E. Jean Carroll case came out and things like that. I think there are some people who are pulling away from him.
Yeah, I'm being ridiculous on purpose. Like, I think that I do think this will hurt him. And I also want to say, because I think it's important actually to make myself feel honest, is I also do believe that politics are always transactional.
Yeah.
Right? I don't want to hire the guy I want to have a beer with.
Sure.
I've said that on the show, so I want to say it again for the audience. Like, I don't believe that politics are not pragmatic. They're always pragmatic. They're always transactional to some degree. I do think that there is also just a base level of human decency and professionalism and like character and integrity that honestly, if it's not there, it's disqualifying. Yeah. Right? Because you can't be trusted.
Yeah. And that's what I wanted to hammer in is, it could be as transactional as possible, but if you're going to lie to me once, what else are you going to lie to me about? And I think there needs to be punishment for people who lie in politics, because we've gotten away from that. And now it just feels like people can just say whatever they want. I feel like there needs to be, these are the people we entrust them with so much power. We can't have a system where we just look at them and say, I understand that there's going to be some things that they can't say, right? Because, you're in power and there's some things you can't say. But if you're caught lying, I feel like that should almost be something that we just say, no, I'm sorry.
Yeah.
I'm sorry. You just go away now.
But I mean, and I agree with you. And I think that there was a time where in most circumstances, there were morally disqualifying acts.
Sure.
You know, I mean, for fuck's sake, man, Howard Dean got excited once on the campaign trail and was like, and we're going to Texas. Woo! And he like lost everything. I think he's like bagging groceries now somewhere. Who knows? I'm sure he's doing fine. But like, seriously, like it used to be so much more, boy, we really want somebody professional. I mean, there was a hot minute. It was nonsense then, but there was a hot minute where Barack Obama once wore a tan suit, man.
It was like 6 months of controversy.
He wore a tan suit and people were like, holy shit.
Yeah.
A tan suit. That is neither blue nor gray nor black. Those are the 3 allowable suit colors. This black man looks great in that suit. My white pasty skin cannot pull it off.
Man,
I am jelly.
I wish you would have bought a fucking purple one.
Dude.
Like a big purple one.
Oh, like a fucking.
Oh, it would have been fucking so good.
Oh, like a Prince suit?
Like if he'd have got like
velvety?
Yeah, with the big lapels.
Yes.
Oh, it would have looked so amazing on him.
God. Okay, so here's the thing. If you're like Obama and it's your last day in office, isn't it kind of like your last day of senior year?
I know, right? Yeah.
Like they can't do anything.
They can't do anything to me.
Why would you not?
Last year in office, we should have walked around half the time in Hawaiian shirts.
I'm like, even if it's not the last year, just like the last day or two, just like come out like dressed like a fucking pimp or something. Just like
so
rock
amazing.
it.
Or he
Just
comes out in a
rock
golf
something
uniform,
crazy.
like one of those big golf uniforms.
Oh, yeah.
With the weird hats with the top thing.
Dude, I have all
and
that
then,
stuff.
And then he's got like a vest sweater.
Oh, yeah.
With a long sleeve, really loud shirt. That'd be amazing.
The tartan checked pants and everything.
So good.
So good.
Tight rolled.
There's a good chance I may have committed some light treason.
This might even be considered light treason.
Oh my God.
All right, this story comes from Newsweek. Donald Trump faces travel ban to 37 countries.
There's a really great clip, if you can find it. Eric Swalwell is talking about how if you might be in a cult and he's reading it on the House, he's in a committee and he's reading it during his time. And at the end, he said, if you think your president, he says something about, if your former president is banned, you don't think it's a problem that your former president is banned from, and then he lists all 37 countries while Jim Jordan is banging the gavel behind him and he reads them all off and he's like, and then he finishes like, you might be in a cult. And then it's so fucking good. It's so
God, I gotta look this
it's
up.
So
that sounds fucking amazing.
But yeah, this was the thing we were talking about last time. Someone had sent a message in and said that Trump would still be able to get security briefings because Trump doesn't have to go through security clearance to get, and a felon normally wouldn't allow that. It wouldn't.
But the president's like the only exception by nature of the job. Yeah, we got a good correction on that.
Somebody said that.
Same thing with his voting. Like he can vote, no problem. That's a non-issue.
Yeah.
Yeah.
We had said that anyway, though, last time. We did. That he probably.
I think I had brought it up and you'd correct it.
I think that we had said that. But everything was sort of just amorphous last week. But this week, that's an interesting thing. I don't feel like anybody's going to ban him if he gets elected.
No.
He's a felon, but nobody's going to do this. But it's funny to point out. It's a funny thing to point out because you say, and the reason why I think it's an interesting thing to point out is there's a lot of people in this country that are felons, and we never forgive felons.
No.
We never forgive them. They did something that we, as a country, feel like they never, ever get a reprieve from. So some places that means they can't vote. Now, don't get me wrong. There is ways, I think, to get that off your record, but it takes a long time in certain places. But we're talking about it being him not going to be able to go to all these countries. That also means all those other people can't go to those countries, right? Anybody else who is a felon.
Yeah.
And someone posted on Twitter this week, they said, if the president of the United States is a felon, you better remove that from all applications for work from now on.
Yeah, right.
If that means that you can be president, then that means you can do any job. If you can be a felon and be president, then this shouldn't be a question that anyone asks you anymore.
Dude, that's true.
Yeah.
Like, he's got the fucking football, right? He's got the nuclear suitcase.
Yeah.
So Like my job at Hardee's or whatever.
Yeah,
you know,
wherever.
where are you gonna make me fucking check that box? I'm sorry. What are your fries gonna come out weird?
Yeah.
Like I'm gonna like steal a fucking French fry out of the bag. What my favorite thing about the 37 countries is on that list is America. America bans felons from other countries from entering the United States.
He leaves to visit somewhere else, and we won't let him
come back. Cecil, that's the one weird trick.
Oh, that's
our one weird trick.
Suddenly, and then you're like, if you don't get back to your office in 10 minutes, we're taking it.
yeah. It's like, dude, it's it. It's two weird tricks. It's like when you're a kid, and if the bus driver is more than 10 minutes late, remember that rumor? They're like, if the bus driver is 10 minutes late, you don't have to go to school. If they can't count it as an absence. Remember that shit?
And you're throwing nails on the street, hoping that the bus driver rolls over him.
9 minutes and everyone's excited, and the bus pulls up. You're like, oh god! And like that's not a thing.
Bus driver has to drive through a bunch of grease that's put on the road, then a bunch of nails, then a bunch of banana peels. He just has to drive through all these hazards to get to your house.
Kids are setting up fucking tank traps and shit in the middle of the road. Get to me now, Mr. Anderson.
Man, let me tell you, if they'd have said that around me, I'd have figured out how to do it. I'll tell you what.
Having trouble divining this one? Yeah.
Sis boom ba.
Sis boom ba.
Describe the sound made when a sheep explodes.
This story comes from Reuters. Trump supporters call for riots and violent retribution after verdict.
Tom, you got to read some of this stuff all.
All right. So, someone in New York with nothing to lose needs to take care of Mershon, wrote one commentator on patriots.win. Hopefully he gets met with illegals with a machete, the Post said in a reference to illegal immigrants. On Gateway Pundit, a poster suggested shooting liberals. Quote, time to start capping some lefties. This cannot be fixed by voting. Further down, this was a disgrace. That's actually Trump. I started reading Trump. That's the thing. I can't actually tell the difference between radicalized lunatics online and the contender for the Republican nominee or for the Republican presidency.
Yeah, I think that's all that's on here. I don't think there's anything else. There's Trump's responding, and then people from True Social are responding. But
somebody also says like we got to go down to Washington D.C. and hang
everybody,
just hang them all, and that resonates after you had like a fucking gallows at the insurrection.
Well, it also resonates because somebody put that line with a picture of the DA from New York who's black.
Yeah, man.
You're talking about hanging a black man in this country? Are you serious? This is something we talked about last week. We had a conversation about this and we said, what's going to happen? Is there going to be some sort of violent reaction from this crowd? And I think that, you don't have to be fucking Karnak and hold an envelope up to your head. That's a Johnny Carson reference. By the way. It's old. But you don't have to be some sort of mind reader to know that there will be something that comes from this. Now, it might not be big, and it might be thwarted, and it might not go anywhere, but there are people in this country who brought guns to fucking January 6th, right?
Yeah.
There's a group of people who are violent and who have that fucking guy who shot his fucking eye out was able to get a bunch of people.
That's true. The fucking Christmas Story, fucking Oath Keeper or whatever.
Oath Keepers or whatever. Fucking Red Rider. Whatever his name is. That guy, he was able to fucking lasso a ton of people to get a bunch of guns together and go hide them across the river. bunch of people had guns, man.
Yeah.
There was even people in trees with guns.
There were people in trees with guns, and Trump was trying to like get them to be in the crowd too. Like Trump was actively trying to thwart the Secret Service's attempts to disarm the mob.
This is not a group of people who I think just go lightly. I think there is a group of people here who they have convinced themselves of this crazy narrative that Trump is somehow being attacked by a simultaneously incompetent and powerful deep state.
I know, man.
That is somehow ruining his life, and they're going to keep going after him. And there's a guy who came to a pizza parlor with a gun.
Yeah, man.
I mean, this isn't something. that was far less dramatic than what happened to Trump, right?
Well, yeah, and
because none of that happened.
Right. Yeah, the Pizzagate stuff. But like, do you remember too that Trump was during lockdown? Trump was absolutely attacking, like vociferously attacking the Governor Whitmer of Michigan, and as a result, like there was a kidnapping plot. They were trying to kidnap that lady.
Yep.
Somebody broke in to Nancy Pelosi's home and beat her husband nearly to death with a fucking hammer. This is not like theoretical.
Yeah.
Like all you have to do is look at what they're saying and look at the history of radicalized right-wing domestic terrorist violence and be like, yeah, like if you keep pouring gas on that flame,
something's going to happen.
I don't know, man. That's how you got a January 6th.
Something's going to happen.
I fucked up and did some bad shit.
Stories from NPR. Publisher of 2000 Mules, election conspiracy theory film, issues apology.
This is a Dinesh D'Souza film. If you're familiar with Dinesh D'Souza, he's a religious apologist. At least that's what he was for a long time.
Wait, but isn't he also a plagiarist? Let's not forget that.
I mean, well,
he's a fucking plagiarist.
Doesn't that go with religious apologist?
Okay, fair. Yeah. That's on me. Redundancy.
So he's also somebody who has tried to debate and failed miserably with multiple people.
Have you watched the debates where he tries to apologist debate against like Hitchens and like others?
It's so sad.
He's
so
fucking
bad.
owned.
He's really not all that smart, but he created this movie. And, you know, one of the things that we seem to miss sometimes is in order to have a movie with a narrative like this, which is an election interference narrative, and this is something I think that they miscalculated because they got sued for it later. Talking about Rudy Giuliani in particular, is that in order to create this narrative, there has to be a villain.
Yes.
But what they don't understand is that the villain is either a very savvy voting machine company that's going to sue you for $750 million, or it's just a girl or a guy who's just doing a volunteer thing, or it's some random person who just happens to be voting. This is a normal citizen. Because here's the thing, all citizens have the right to vote.
Right.
So unless you're a felon in some places, I guess it's not all citizens, but you know what I mean? So you're going to either target somebody who you can't beat, or you're going to target somebody who's just doing their job or just doing their civic duty. And that's what happened here.
Yeah, and I am really impressed with how many times now defamation has come to the rescue of democracy. I think that we are in a place where the only path out of the misinformation cycle is through massive civil penalties. Massive. We've got to make it so incredibly painful financially for disinformation and misinformation purveyors like Dinesh D'Souza and his bullshit documentary full of lies so bad that when the lawsuit itself was filed recently, the publisher basically was like, I don't want anything to do with this. We relied on Dinesh D'Souza to tell us some shit. We're pulling the whole fucking thing. We're not distributing it. It's not like they lost and the publisher did this. The lawsuit was filed and the publisher was like, well, let's take a quick read over it. Oh shit. Hey boys, roll up the carpets.
Books.
We're fucked.
Movies. The whole thing.
Yep.
All taken back.
It's all gone.
Apology issued.
Yep. And this is the path forward. It's massive civil penalties. Massive. Hundreds of millions of dollars. It's Alex Jones eating shit. It's Rudy Giuliani eating shit. It's Fox News eating shit. It's going to be Dinesh D'Souza eating shit. We've got to make these guys understand that because behind every corporation, there's a person who controls the activity. If we name them individually, and only when they lie, like I'm not saying like when they just exercise their free speech, but only when they lie in order to subvert and damage and hurt other people when they know that they are lying. I'm not like saying we should go after like your uncle for reposting some shit on Facebook or like your sister for like sharing some shit on Twitter or whatever. Like that's not what I'm talking about. I'm talking about the originators, the propagators of this stuff. They need to be sued until they are fucking blue in the face and sued again. They need to be sued until they can't fucking buy a dime. Like I want them to be sued until they are like so poor they can't earn enough money to fucking scrape together an attorney to even think about appealing.
Did you see Alex Jones this week?
No.
Okay, Tom, I'm going to make your week.
Oh, Lord. Oh, God, please be outside begging for change.
So, folks, this is Alex Jones from This Week is Alex Jones Show.
At the end of the day, we're going to beat these people. I'm not trying to be dramatic here, but it's been a hard fight. These people hate our children. Just take more calls. Go ahead. There's the next person. At the end of the day.
What did he say at the end? Hold on. What does he say?
I think he's trying to go to the next call or something.
Just take more calls. Go ahead. There's the next person.
Take more
calls. Let's go ahead to the next person.
Here's why he's so mad. Here's why he's so mad, though, is they're going to start taking his studio away.
Oh, can we get the desk?
I think we got to arm wrestle with Jordan.
I volunteer. Yes.
Okay. Here's the deal. Okay. Knowledge fight. Here's what I want to bring it in. Knowledge fight. Here's the deal. Bring it in. Let me bring my screen back here. Okay. Knowledge fight. Here's the deal. Tom will arm wrestle both of you
at the same time.
Tom will arm wrestle both of you at the same time. If Tom wins both of you at the same time. Tom wins, Dan and Jordan. We get the desk.
Oh, it's the desk. Oh, we got to give me the desk.
And Tom, just give him a peep at the guns real quick to make sure they don't want any of this. They don't want any of this.
I think we'll be all right.
They don't want any of this.
We'll be all right.
My favorite memory of QED is there's this guy who's a kind of jack dude comes up to me and he's like, I guess everybody was arm wrestling. He's like, you want to arm wrestle? I was like, let me tag in my bro.
I volunteer.
And I walk over and I go, hey, Tom, I need you to arm wrestle someone. And Tom walks over and I have a video of Tom. I go, okay, go. And Tom's like, are you going yet? And the guy he's turning red. He's pouring sweat. He's like, and Tom just goes, whoop. It's the funniest shit I've ever seen. I got a video on my kid. And I was like, you don't fuck with my boy. Like, no. You'll beat me. Like, I'll lose. I'll fucking lose arm wrestling, but we won't beat Tom. So Dan and Jordan.
Please.
The gauntlet has been thrown. Who's going to get the desk? Who is going to get the desk? I'll tell you what, though. I will 100% put the desk in the studio, and you guys can move operations out here. So we can share. You 100% can use the studio anytime you want. So anytime you record, you just come into the studio, you sit behind the desk, and then we'll come in and we'll sit behind the desk when we record. I'm willing to let you guys have free access at any point to the studio to use the desk, and we could just share it. It's like when you have kids and nobody really wants them, you know? It's like that.
So just general parenting. We'll share custody of that desk.
Share custody.
Oh my God, yes.
In the summertime, enjoy water fire. Fight through horribly rude crowds at Chuds for a glimpse of fire pits on the water. It's the city's way of majestically putting lipstick on a pig.
All right, so Boston Globe, Rhode Island. By the way, I read this twice before I realized RI stood for Rhode Island. I forgot about Rhode Island. I
know, and we're in like the middle of the country. We never have to deal with an RI.
Why in the world would anybody remember Rhode Island?
Yeah.
We've been doing this show for how many years? Do you know how few stories we've had coming out of fucking Rhode Island? We've been covering the news for fucking 16, 17 years. This might be the first Rhode Island story.
Could be the first Rhode Island story
we've ever covered.
Okay. I didn't realize there was Rhode Island Nazis.
Yeah, right? Yeah,
I guess
there's 7 people there. I guess one's a Nazi.
I guess that makes sense for America.
What do you have to be fucking angry about non-whites for in Rhode Island? Are there any non-whites in Rhode Island?
I don't know, bro. I don't know.
Rhode Island neo-Nazi member accused of possessing child pornography, Stephen Ferreira of Portsmouth, is part of the Nationalist Social Club 131, which targets drag queen story hours. And that's the story.
Right? That's the story. You know, what you hear from all these people across the country is we got to get our kids away from the drag queens. The drag queens are ruining the country. They do these story hours. And there was people all over the country there was places closed down because of this, coffee shops, bakeries. They picketed libraries. They did all kinds of stuff to make sure that people weren't allowed to have a drag queen store where somebody got dressed up and sat down and read a story.
Yep.
That was too much for them, and they freaked the fuck out. But once you start peeling back the layers of this onion on all the people who kept on trying to protest at these things, almost every time you're starting to find a lot of projection. And every time there's somebody who is revealed like this, it's never a drag queen.
Yeah, man. Here's the thing. Like, the other thing that they don't tell you is that when there is a drag queen story hour, and I don't know if you know this, but this is like, when there's a drag queen story hour in your town, you have to attend with your kids.
Sure, yeah.
You're required to by law.
Yeah.
Either that.
Yeah.
So either that's true, or you can just not go to the things you don't like.
It's always, that's always an option, it turns out.
Turns out.
Yeah.
Like, all these people are like, oh my God, like they're trying to like something the children. You're like, well, I mean, there is a solution to that.
You just don't
bring your kid.
Oh, yeah.
Like, I don't bring my kids places because they're boring. But like, you get that choice.
That really is something too. And that I think parents should be offended by that, right?
Yeah.
You should be offended when someone reaches their fucking head in and says, this is how I want you to raise your child. It's none of their fucking business.
Yeah.
It's none of their business. You have every right to not go there. Don't fucking go there if you don't like it.
Yeah, and these guys, like, the thing is, like, on the right, they're constantly banging the fucking drum of like parental, I don't know what they call it. They got a term for it, but like, basically, like, parents have the right to do anything they want, like that, and raise their kids any way they want, and tell teachers what to teach, and tell the books what should be in the books, because parents have like some grand, ultimate, perfect right. And fine, okay, so just don't go. Just don't go. Like, that's it. It's so funny how, like, your rights as a parent have not been trampled on literally at all in any way. You don't actually even have to send your kid to a public school. You could send your kid to a private school. You could homeschool your kid. There's no law that even means you have to send your kid to the public school. You have all these choices. You've always had them. They have always had them. You don't have to let your kid bring home a library book. You don't have to take your kid to Drag Queen Story Hour. Your kids don't get a fucking driver's license and any autonomy until they're 16 or 17 years old.
And they don't even have to get a driver's license. They don't even have to get a driver's license.
They don't have to get that either.
Yeah.
You're in complete control of like all of this stuff for the most part here. Like, these parents, they're lying.
Yeah.
They're lying. What they feel weird, right? They feel uncomfortable.
Yeah.
Their trying to couch their own discomfort. Yeah. Exactly.
It's
they're projectionists. Yeah.
And we covered that story. We talked about that story where all the people in the town read all the books that were on the ban list, and they pulled 3 off that they thought were a little too sexual, but they wound up putting in all the other ones, and they didn't listen to this group of women who are traveling all over the country with this list of books you need to take out of your library. During that story, one of those librarians said, you could just call the library at the school and say, just don't let my kid's name is blah. Don't let him take out these 12 books that are on this fucking crazy person list.
Right.
And then they can't get those books on the crazy person list. The end. It's the problem is you're too lazy to parent. You don't want to parent. What you want to do is just make sure that there's never anything near your child that even remotely looks like any of this stuff, because you don't want to do the hard work of steering them away from things you don't want them to do. You just want everything in the world to be there for them. Well, the world is for everybody. It's not just for fucking you. And I also want to say too, these are the same people who fucking harp on that grooming bullshit.
Absolutely.
Grooming. They say that word as a pejorative all the time. They're fucking attacking people who are LGBTQ+, and they constantly use that word to describe them.
Yep.
And what are they doing? Yep. What are they doing? What's found on this guy's computer?
Yeah, man. It's like all the fucking religious nuts who are just like, oh, blah, blah. And it's all the priests that are kids, and it's all the Baptist ministers that are kids. And it's all the Jehovah's Witness leaders that are kids, and it's all the Mormon leaders that are kids, and it's like, well, we got to have more righteousness and religiosity. It's like, really? Because everyone who's kids is not the people you think are fucking the kids. There's no conspiracy of drag queens kids. There is an absolute international conspiracy of several major world religions hiding the of our kids, and they're just lying to you. They're lying. And I know that some of them will say, look, it's not my kid, it's the broader principle. I am worried about all kids. I am worried about, and then they'll say, like, I mean, in the same way that I might be worried about, like, laws that protect kids in general from other ills of society, right? And we do have laws that I think we all have a social interest in that protect kids. Yeah, well, I wish we had those from like dangers of society. And we do all have an interest in that. No gun laws. There's no gun laws. And like that on its face is a reasonable argument, but it falls apart when you look at these like really specific, these are like your home decisions. And there is a big difference between the decisions that we make about who we want to be as a society and how we want, like, I don't like the way lots of people parent. Lots of people probably wouldn't like the way that I parent. That's okay. I literally do not care because we're not talking about a broader social principle here. They're trying to make a personal family decision a broader social principle. And the broader social principle at play is not, won't somebody think of the children? The broader social principle at play is, I'm uncomfortable with this, and this needs to be law.
6 simple words, be gay, do drugs, hail Satan.
I didn't hear about this as an actual thing, but evidently it's big enough, Tom, for Reuters to have a fact check on it.
I love, Cecil, when we get a fact check about a conspiracy that like got fact checked before I even heard about the conspiracy.
You didn't even hear about the conspiracy yet.
So evidently, guys, there's a conspiracy. The Democrats were calling for a redesign, a rainbow redesign of the American flag, of the U.S. flag. And there's this conspiracy exists because somewhere as a fucking like Getty stock image, and I'm not even kidding, there is a rainbow American flag. And it was used at like a rally or a march. And that is the whole principle, Cecil, the entire principle.
I'm going to put it on the big screen so we can see it together. I want to make sure that we give it the due that it's due here. This is what it is. A one-time Democrat, it's just a one-time flag somebody made. You know, why are their panties not in a bunch over fucking all those thin blue line fucking flags?
Yeah, I know, right?
Right?
Yeah.
You know, that American flag that's not the same colors, that has like the fucking Punisher skull on it or whatever.
Yeah.
Why aren't you freaking out about that? You never, why aren't you mad at Alito for flying an upside down fucking flag?
Thank you, Cecil. Thank you. Like the flag actually, if you're a flag person, and I'm not, but if you're a flag person, you were raised to believe that the flag is a relatively sacred symbol of our country and that it's supposed to be treated a certain way, folded a certain way, put up in the morning, taken down at night. Like these fucking assholes are just like, fly it upside down all the time and piss on it.
Did you ever do flag duty at your school?
No, did you?
Yeah, so.
Oh, is it weird?
Yeah, so they had a person who every day you had to put the flag out in the morning and in the first class, and then you would go out at the last class. You had 5 minutes at the end of the day, and you would go, and they would take volunteers, as I recall. I was very young at the time. I was in 4th grade, so a very, very long time ago. But in my school, they had a thing that was, you know, you could go out and put the flag up in the morning and go out and take the flag down at night. And you got it to do it for, I think it was a month, and then they switched to a new
I would have volunteered the shit.
I volunteered.
That sounds fun.
I volunteered, and you had to do like a little review with the teacher before you could actually do it, which was when you go out there, you have to hold one end, and then you have to unfold it, and you have to keep it taut so it doesn't touch the ground, and then you have to hook the top eye on first, and other person has to hold it out to make sure it doesn't actually touch the ground, and then you hook the other one on, and you have to hold it the whole time it goes up until it's well off the ground and cannot touch, and then you can continue pulling it up. But there was this big deal about the flag can't touch the ground, and like I seem to recall they would say, if your flag touches the ground, you're not doing this again. This is it. You get one chance. You don't get a chance to do it again.
Sure. Yeah.
Don't be a kid who's looking at your phone. There was no phones. We didn't have phones. But you know what I mean? Don't be paying attention to something else. It was a big deal.
Right.
And they really drilled in that, you know, this is how a flag is treated. And it's very weird to me as an adult to look back on those times of saying the pledge in the class and how we treated flags and how there's a whole section in some when I was a younger person about how you have to dispose of a flag. There's
you retire
ways in which we're very weird. I don't know if other countries are like this. I'm actually curious if you're in another country. Did you learn about how to take care of your flag? Because I'll tell you what, I see people in other countries wearing their flag as like a cloak all the time.
Well, Americans will do that now too.
Really?
Yeah. And they used to be that like you could never.
I would have gotten punched in the face as a kid if I'd have done
that's the thing is that like
my dad wasn't even all that patriotic, and he was like that.
Yeah, and like back in the day, it would have been inconceivable to have the flag as part of a piece of clothing or part of a jacket,
right?
Or for it to be like worn like around you as like a cape, or to like not take down at night, not put up in the morning, to let it fly in tatters, to let it fly. There's all these flag rules, man. There's all these fucking now. The flag is like kind of everywhere, and you're right. Like they'll fly it upside down. They'll fly it with like blue and black stripes. They'll fly it like I've seen businesses that like fly a flag, and the fucking thing is like ripped to shreds, dude.
I see that too.
It's in tatters.
And I keep thinking, I'm like, isn't that from that Superman when he dies? Isn't that what the flag looks like in that one?
And the whole time I'm like, look, this isn't a symbol for me. I don't care. But what's weird to me is that you care enough to buy the flag and to put the flag up. And then you're like, hey, man, your flag looks a little worn hard and put away wet. And you're like, fuck it. I don't understand what's happening.
If you cared about it enough to put it up, you should care about it. But I also want to very much say to the audience, like, I literally don't care about
flag.
I don't care about the flag.
I don't give a shit. It's weird.
I was
weird
raised
iconography
with a weird reverence for it. And I think I had it for a long time until I questioned it. You know, it's a lot like religious belief.
Yeah.
You have it for a long time because it's drilled into you. And then finally one day you look at it and you say, why am I doing this?
But like, I'll go a step further for me and say, I still feel weird when I see flag stuff that doesn't comport with my
your idea
training of the iconography and the way it's supposed to be treated. And part of what makes me feel weird is I'm like, I don't understand anymore what you believe.
What do you believe?
Because
I don't believe, but what do you believe?
Right. Because like back in the day, if you had a flag, I knew something about you.
Yeah.
And now I don't feel like I know fuck all. I'm like, I don't know, man. Maybe you're a fucking white nationalist nut job. Maybe you're lazy.
I presume.
I don't know.
I presume anybody with an American flag at this point is someone I don't want to have a conversation
seriously,
with.
I would not have an American flag on my property.
I just feel
for
weird
any
about, I feel like it has been weaponized.
It has.
By a group of people in this country to otherize other people, to make other people feel like it's that they're not part of this group.
Yeah.
That it's made to make them feel like they're not American. And so, and being American isn't that big a deal. It's kind of shitty, actually, to be honest with you. But there's an otherism there that is, there's a tension there, and they try to weaponize it. And I recognize that too. I see people with flags and I think, I'm automatically leery. If you have a flag thing on you, I'm automatically leery.
Yeah, same, man. If you're like walking around in fucking flag shorts, I'm like, we're not friends.
Yeah. If you have a bandana on with a flag on it or something.
Or an eagle or any of that fucking, any of that patriotism shit.
Yeah. Unless it's 3 eagles howling at the moon.
No,
I'm okay with
that's
it.
awesome.
I gotta find a shirt. Actually, that sounds fucking
3
amazing.
eagles howling at the moon?
Howling at the moon. I'm writing it down. So just
that shirt exists somewhere.
Even if it doesn't exist, I'm gonna make it.
It's getting
3 eagles howling at the moon. All right, got it.
It's fucking brilliant. It's fucking brilliant.
Maybe so. If it's an eagle, a wolf, and what's the third thing that could be howling at the moon with them? So like you get a wolf, you get an eagle. What's the third thing?
Jesus. In the crown of thorns and everything. Oh.
I feel like that's the winner.
That's
like that's the winner.
Oh, a wolf, a fucking bald eagle, and a Jesus all howling at the moon.
I feel like I've got to Photoshop that and just make it one of our shirts. I love it. All right, that's going to wrap it up for this week. So this Thursday, Tom has read excerpts from Project 2025. So someone from Media Matters has gone through and excerpted and talked a little bit about, with some commentary, the 900-page document that is Project 2025. And if you're unfamiliar, Project 2025 is the plan that that the Heritage Foundation has put together for America when the next Republican takes over. They're hoping it's Trump in 2024. So it's a terrifying look at what the far Christian right wants with this country. So if you're interested in it, check this show out, this next show out. It's going to be on Project 2025. And if you're a patron at $2 or more, Tom reads the documents here. It's like 40 minutes of audio, 35 minutes of audio of him reading this Project 2025. So also terrifying. So anyway, we'll be back this upcoming Thursday with a show, but we're going to leave you like we always do with the Skeptic's Creed.
Credulity is not a virtue. It's fortune cookie cutter, mommy issue, hypno-Babylon bullshit. Couched in scientician, double bubble, toil and trouble, pseudo quasi alternative, acupunctuating, pressurized, stereogram, pyramidal, free energy healing, water downward spiral, brain deadpan, sales pitch, late night info docutainment. Leo, Pisces, cancer cures, detox, reflex, foot massage, death and towers, tarot cards, psychic healing, crystal balls, Bigfoot, Yeti, aliens, churches, mosques and synagogues, temples, dragons, giant worms, Atlantis, dolphins, truthers, birthers, witches, wizards.
Why, we'll make Rock Ridge think it's a chicken that got caught in a tractor's
nuts, shaman healers, evangelists, conspiracy, doublespeak, stigmata, nonsense. Expose your sides. Thrust your hands, bloody, evidential, conclusive. Doubt even this.
The opinions and information provided on this podcast are intended for entertainment purposes only. All opinions are solely that of Glory Hole Studios, LLC. Cognitive Dissonance makes no representations as to accuracy, completeness, currentness, suitability, or validity of any information, and will not be liable for any errors, damages, or butthurt arising from consumption. All information is provided on an as-is basis. No refunds. Produced in association with the local Dairy Council and viewers like you.